I am calling this a meeting to order. The time is now 6:30 p.m. Can you all please stand with me and join me with the flag salute? All right, ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please take roll?
Councilmember Gama,
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Here.
Councilmember McQueen LaJean,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Perez,
Here.
and Mayor Martinez.
Present. For tonight's inspiration, we have the honor of having Mayor Pro Tem Perez give her inspiration.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So last week, the nation celebrated Dispatcher Appreciation Week to honor public safety dispatchers for their commitment, service, and sacrifice. Dispatchers are a necessary and important first responder. Any experienced, well-trained dispatcher is able to gather vitally important information that can help a first responder form an early understanding of what they'll be facing upon arrival, and it could save their life. Our dispatchers are comprised of 6 full-time dispatchers, 2 of which are in training, so technically we have 4 full-time. Each shift is staffed by 1 dispatcher, so every 12-hour shift has just 1 that handles, answers, assesses, and refers 911 calls, business calls, public window requests, record entries that come into the Port Hueneme Dispatch Center. They're responsible for dispatching and coordinating patrol responses to calls for service. In the past year, our dispatchers answered over 33,000 phone calls, which consists of 7,889 911 calls and 25,730 non-emergency line calls. And that is 1 dispatcher per shift. A dispatch 18,516 calls for service. They answered and transferred over 2,000 additional calls for service to Ventura County Fire, surrounding law enforcement jurisdictions. And they also dispatch parking enforcement in the after hours, including public works. The men and women of Hueneme are among the first responders to emergency incidents, and they are expected to remain calm, professional, and proficient at all times. They undergo 6 months to a year of on-the-job training, state-mandated post-training, and 120-hour California Post Dispatch Basic Academy. Dispatcher of the Year is voted by peers, and Jennifer Floriano, who is one of our dispatchers, was nominated for Dispatcher of the Year for Hueneme. She has over 20 years' experience with various agencies. I was going to give some details about Ms. Floriano, but I heard that she'll be having a recognition ceremony coming up later in the month, and I wanted to save that for them. So one more thing to note about our dispatchers, they're very unique because they handle all the calls throughout the shift, and that's 1 dispatcher where most agencies have multiple on board. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We will now hear public comments not pertaining to items on the agenda. Zoom participants, please use the raise your hand feature. If you would like to comment, you will have 3 minutes providing comments. The process will be the same for comments pertaining to each agenda item. Madam Clerk, does anyone have a public comment tonight?
We have a public comment from Becky Bruning.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, staff. I'm here on behalf of Real Guppy Outdoors. We have our open house tomorrow. The first one is going to be from 3:30 to 5, and the second one from 5:30 to 7. You should have the flyer there in front of you, as well as a card that we've been handing out. We handed out probably 100 of these cards yesterday at the Wheelhouse Expo. And we plan on being at the Latino Business Expo on the 27th. So that's it for that one. My second thing is Relay for Life. It's for getting donations to help research cancer. This year, Port Hueneme nor Oxnard has a Relay for Life. So I had to join the one in Ventura. I'm an ambassador, so it was kind of mandatory that I join. I did put up a thing on my Facebook page to raise funds. So if anyone would like to help me out, I would appreciate it. My Facebook page is Becky Burning. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
That concludes public comments.
Okay. We're going to move on to agenda approval for city council. I'd like to entertain a motion to move council member comments at the start of the meeting.
Second.
And this would be to accommodate council member Hernandez. Since she's going to have to leave a little early. Okay. Can we take a vote?
Mayor Martinez,
Yes?
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Gama,
Yes.
Councilmember McQueen Lejeune,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Perez.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. So we're going to start with actually, let's see, do any members of the council have any conflicts of interest to disclose on any item on the agenda? Okay. All right. So let's start with Councilmember Martha McQueen Lejeune. And I'd like to limit council member comments to 5 minutes, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'd just like to share, I've been participating with both, I have several committees, but specifically tonight, VCTC, Ventura County Transportation Commission, and also Gold Coast Transit. And just want to share that both of the organizations are being innovative in providing solutions to some of the issues that we currently face as it relates to low ridership. One of the things specifically I'd like to share with members here and those online is that Gold Coast Transit is doing some really good stuff outside the box, things to help transportation for our residents. And so would just direct you to go to the Gold Coast Transit website and look at their transportation options that they have. They're providing service by request. And what that means is if you need to travel somewhere and you really don't have the time to take the bus, or you're traveling somewhere late at night, you want to go to the grocery store, you want to be picked up, they actually have a service that will do that. It's for a minimum cost. But there are some things I'm finding that they're not just the metro and they're not just the buses. There are some other things that I think our residents can take use to assist for transportation. So yeah, go out to Gold Coast Transit and see what items that they have to offer for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Gama?
Thank you, Mayor Martinez. This past weekend, we had I'm a member of the auxiliary at the VFW here in our city. We had a successful taco fundraiser event. I provided the Gama Good salsa and the rice, and want to get Mayor Martinez's salsa over there at some point. Taco sauce, mine's salsa, but his is taco sauce. So just want to encourage everybody to keep supporting your local VFW. On April 22nd, we are providing a fried chicken dinner fundraiser from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday, April 22nd. So come on over, have some excellent fried chicken and green beans and biscuits and some special potatoes. At some point, I hope that we could revisit the donuts in the parking lot issue. Over the last couple weeks, we're seeing some sophisticated donut activities, not in the parking lots, but in the street. And so I'm just a little concerned that if we block off the parking lots, then we're going to be encouraging more donuts in the streets, and it appears to be getting out of hand. There was a video of a group of people that were appeared to be using bleach to bleach down the tires so that the cars could drift easier. And you just look around town in front of the police department, donuts occurred at one point too. So just a little concern on that. Maybe we could consider, if we catch somebody recklessly driving like that in the beach or anywhere in the city, maybe we could consider an ordinance of impounding their car for 30 days as a deterrent. Several residents have informed me that the meeting audio is a issue when they're watching the meetings live, that the audio comes in and out, and sometimes they lose the connection. So I don't know what we can do to improve that. Also, I'd like to make sure that we continue to get the word out on the styrofoam ban that we have. I like to frequent a lot of restaurants in the area, and I talk to them about it and try to give them as much information as I have so that they could be prepared. Half of them were unaware that we took that step. And then finally, there's a controversy at Animal Services that seems to be getting a lot of social media attention. And as most of us know, Ventura County Animal Services is a non-euthanizing organization, shelter. And what that means is that they try to not have to euthanize animals. And they have a 96% non-euthanizing rate, which is very good. And there was a recent animal that had behavior issues that had bitten a volunteer and caused some pretty extensive need for stitches. So there seems to be a lot of incomplete rumors and information out there. And so I just want everyone to be assured that Ventura County Animal Services is doing a wonderful job. It's a difficult job. They have multiple, I think more than 100 volunteers, maybe 200 volunteers helping with that. And there's a lot going on, but they do a fantastic job. And so if you have any questions regarding this rumor that's out there, please give me a call. And the Fixie crew was in our town yesterday, and it was a rather large group of bicyclists. I would estimate between 100 and 200 Fixie bicyclists, and they literally took over the parking lot at Jack in the Box, and then they come down the streets and take over streets, and it's very, very dangerous. And I don't know what we can do, or in fact, if an organization is going to have that many people taking over the streets of our city, perhaps maybe we could come up with a way to get a permit or get some safeguards involved. And most of the participants appear to be under the age of 18, and I didn't see any helmets, but it just seems to be a very dangerous activity that we may want to figure out if we could help improve safety and give the bike riders the needed space they need to do the things that they want to do. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gama. Councilmember Hernandez?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to my fellow council members for accommodating my schedule. I'm here in Sacramento with the Southern California Association of Governments, and we're going to be doing some advocacy with our elected officials tonight and tomorrow to discuss issues related to housing, water, and transportation. So I'm going to have to bow out close to 7 o'clock for the first meeting. So I do appreciate you allowing me to make these comments. And I'm glad that it's a light agenda because I would feel really bad not being there for the vote. But thank you, Councilman Gama, for your comments on the Fixie group. I did see them yesterday also. But sometimes I can't tell if they're the Fixie group or if they're the Goonies, but or maybe they were combined. I don't know. But actually, on Wednesday, we're going to be honoring the memory of Pedro Valdez down at the bicycle station next to Surfside Restaurant. And the event is being organized by the family, but they have asked for city support. They have asked for Mayor Martinez to be there, and they've asked for my assistance. And we have a sound system coming in so people can speak via a microphone and have a speaker so everybody can hear what they're saying. and then they're going to leave and go to a church service and a candle lighting. And I do believe they are planning on gathering again at the site of the accident, or the it wasn't really an accident, it was intentional killing at Jack in the Box. So I have communicated this with the city manager. The police department's aware of it. I don't know if Oxnard's planning any kind of escort service, but they are a rather large crowd on bikes. And I think I've discussed this with Mayor Martinez, that the message that we want to share this year with them is that Pedro was a bicycle enthusiast. He was a leader, and he kept the group fairly organized and safe. And we want to see that legacy continue. We want them to be respectful of sharing the road. We want them to be a part of our community, but do so in a way that's respectful to our beaches, to other drivers, and to our rules of safety on the street. And other council members are invited to attend, and Councilman Gama, if you want to come and speak to the group, you're more than welcome to. I think if you have a message that you want to share with them, I think that would be great. So that's going to happen April 19th, Wednesday at 4 p.m. So everyone is welcome. Also, I'm involved in not as a city council member, but as a private citizen. I'm on the Ventura County Library Foundation, and we're having our fundraiser Rising from the Ashes on Saturday. And it's a tour of the homes that were destroyed, some of the homes that were destroyed in the Thomas fire. And I want to thank our librarian, Tim, for giving us a great plug on KBTA. He not only talked about Rising from the Ashes, but he talked about the services provided through our library. And Councilman Gama, thank you for making those arrangements for that radio program. Tim did a great job speaking about our local library. And with that said, I am going to be meeting with Tim and the library director, Nancy Schramm, coming up on the 24th, right before our city manager interviews. And I'm going to talk to them about a grant that we started working on last year, and also talk about the possibility of doing the mural project there at the library. They have some great wall space that I hadn't noticed before, but I'm going to be discussing with them the possibility of using that wall, since we've been trying to seek out locations. And Mr. City Manager, I don't know if you want a staff member there, but I'll send you the appointment invite in case you or Mr. Peretz wants to attend that meeting. And I'll try to give you some more details on I had two other items I was going to discuss, so it might be good to have staff there if you're available. I also wanted to remind everybody that the Ormond Beach Town Meeting is going to be on is that Monday?
Monday, 24th.
The 24th. So I hope that we can get some of our folks represented there, representing our interest in that beach, because our visitors frequent that beach, our residents frequent that beach, and we would like to see some remediation and some cleanup and some short-term goals to address the issues out there on Ormond Beach. Let's see. I had a whole list. Coffee with Steve Bennett on Saturday. Councilwoman Perez and I were there, along with former council member Rich Rollins, and council member Queen Lejeune was there. So it was a really great and informative meeting. It kind of spurred the idea that maybe we should do more town hall meetings on our own with our city manager. And I think that the community really had questions that they wanted some answers to, and we had a lot of participation, and it was helpful to have some of the council members there to help Steve answer and address some of their concerns. The Beacon Sand Summit Councilman Gama, I don't know if you wanted to share that, but that's May 11th. We've got a confirmed date of May 11th. It'll be on Zoom, and I think it's either 9:30 to 11 or 9 to 11. Councilman, I don't know, Councilman Gama, I don't know if you can confirm that or not, but that's May 11th, and all of you should be receiving invites to that as well. That's all I have to report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Perez?
I don't have any committee, I had a few committee meetings, but nothing really to report that has anything to do with Wainimi, but I did want to follow up on Councilmember Hernandez's comment about trying to come up with ways to better inform our community. I see a lot of social media posts about people asking questions about things that are already in progress and starting up or about to be finished, and it just seems that many of our community members have really no idea what's happening and what things we've approved and what things are in the process of completion or starting up. So just like to come up with some ways of better communication to the community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. And then I'll just go, yes, yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Hernandez, for reminding me about Timothy Fergal. I just want everyone to know we met him a couple times, and he is the most enthusiastic, outgoing, talkative librarian I've ever met in my life, and they absolutely loved him on the radio, and I think they're going to bring him back weekly now because he is such a pleasure. So, Bombs, take your young kids over to our library, and he's ready and eager to interact, and he's going to bring some great things to our community. I couldn't be more excited.
Okay. I'd like to congratulate the Parks and Recs for the wonderful celebration on Easter, the Easter egg hunt. That was a successful event. Today I had a meeting, training at Fathom Works, and I actually got to meet the State Secretary of Transportation, Tokes. But most importantly, I just want to mention that at the end of this month, on the 30th of April, it's on Sunday, I'm going to be hosting a book reading, and the Port will also be co-hosting with me. So they're going to be providing the podium and chairs and a couple other things. So I'd like to welcome everybody if they can make it out on the Day of the Child at 1 p.m. on Sunday, April 30th. And this weekend, I'm also going to be meeting up with the Sister City Committee out in Santa Barbara to see if they can help us out, get our Sister City going here in our city with Puerto Vallarta. And that's about it. Let's go ahead and move on to presentations. And presentation item number 1 is Arbor Day Proclamation. And for our first presentation, we would like to present a proclamation in honor of Arbor Day, but real quick, are we going to have a presentation by a Public Works
No,
Supervisor?
I'm sorry.
Leland?
That was, I did that in error. So he's not in
Oh,
attendance.
so he's not going to be in?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and read the proclamation. So honoring Arbor Day in the city of Port Hueneme, 4th Thursday in April, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morin proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day will be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce wind and water erosion of our precious topsoil, lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed that the City Council of Port Hueneme does hereby proclaim the 4th Thursday in April as Arbor Day in the city of Port Hueneme, and all citizens are urged to celebrate Arbor Day and support the efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. We urge all citizens to plant and care for trees, to gladden the earth, and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Thank you.
Georgiana, are we having an Arbor Day celebration here at the city?
I believe Public Works is working on that and they'll provide you with more information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And we have one more presentation and proclamation. So this is a Fair Housing Month proclamation. And today with us is President Julia Esquivias and Local Government Relations Committee Chair, say, I might not be pronouncing it correctly, but Selena Bracamontes, who will be receiving this year's Fair Housing Proclamation on behalf of the Ventura County Coastal Association of Realtors. If they may please come up, please. Okay. Do I read it now or, yeah? Or do I?
If you want them to say words first.
Okay. Yes. Can you guys please speak?
Yes, I'm Selena Bracamontes, and you did my name beautifully, so thank you. We really thank you for taking the time and having the proclamation be approved in the city of Port Hueneme. We're really happy to accept this on behalf of Fair Housing Day.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and read it. So the proclamation, Fair Housing Month, April 2023, whereas April 10th, 2023 marks the 55th anniversary of the passage of the Fair Housing Act, Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, as amended, which enunciates a national policy of fair housing without regard to race, color, religion, sex, familial status, handicap, or national origin, and encourages fair housing opportunities for all. And whereas the Ventura County Coastal Association of Realtors and the Real Estate Fraud Advisory Team is committed to highlighting the Fair Housing Act by continuing to address discrimination in our community, to support programs that will educate the public about the right to equal housing opportunities, and to plan partnership efforts with other organizations to help assure everyone of their rights to fair housing. And whereas our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities, and whereas more than 50 years after the passage of the Fair Housing Act, discrimination persists and many communities remain segregated, and whereas acts of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunity are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness, and whereas the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics commits all realtors to providing equal professional services without discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, handicap, sexual orientation, gender identity, or national origin. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme, California does hereby proclaim April 2023 as Fair Housing Month and begins a year-long commemoration of the Fair Housing Act in the City of Port Hueneme, and urges all citizens to wholeheartedly recognize this celebration throughout the year. Proclaim this 17th day of April 2023. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Perfect.
I wanted you to take a post-it note.
Perfect. All right. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. All right, we have one more presentation. The 75th anniversary celebration wrap-up by Maya Sumaya.
Good evening, Mayor Martinez, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, staff. I'm happy to be here and to go over the wrap-up, the details of this event, which was planned in 3 months' time, and I think it went really well. So go ahead and, do I have this? All right, so the City of Port Hueneme's 75th celebration was held on March 25th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. our participants. We had 41 participants, but if you look at the Wainimi Elementary Unified School District, they had probably 5 different schools with them, so it was probably a little bit more than that. We had 37 cars in the car show, 55 vendors, and 4 live entertainment. Our parade awards, Best Float went to the Port of Wainimi. Best Participation went to Wainimi Elementary Unified School District. Most Creative went to the City of Port Wainimi Float. Best Equestrian Group went to the VCSO Mounted Unit. Best Animal Entry went to the Ventura County Corgis Group. Best Government Agency went to Ventura County. Best Nonprofit went to the Ventura Downtown Lions Club. Right there you show a picture of the car show winners. We had 9 awards given out, and I want to give a special thank you to Bomb Life Car Club for running the car show for us. And then they decided to donate the money to the Channel Islands High School. And there's a picture of our parade and car show trophies. We had 4 live entertainment in Inlatech, Expressions of Polynesia, What the Funk, and Twisted Gypsy, crowd favorite. For entertainment, we also had, and this was all free to the community, face painting and balloon art and the kids zone, as well as cornhole, which was really steady during the event and a good addition, a last minute addition, thanks to Nick Jones for organizing and managing it the whole time. And our sponsors were the Port of Wainimi, Premier America Credit Union, Michelob Ultra, and Local 721. So I was given a budget of $65,000, and I'll go into more detail in the next slides. But with the monies earned and sponsorships, it ended up costing the city $33,000, roughly. And here's some more details on the income. We made $3,069 for beer and wine. Car show income was $936.75. Our commemorative postcards raised about $80. Arts and craft vendors, $317.50. Retail vendors, a little over $2,000. Food trucks was a little over $3,000. And then our nonprofit vendors, a little over $500. So a total of $6,775.20. In sponsorships, we totaled $11,500 with a total income of $22,280.95. And there's a list of the expenses, sponsorship commissions, a site manager, staffing, public notices and permits at almost $7,000 there. Marketing and print and banners was around $10,000. And then we have our vendor concessions and related costs around $2,000. And then entertainment, which was the bulk of it, the staging, the parade staging, the entertainment, the kids zone, which is about $16,000. And then some contractor rental services there. And so total expenses was $55,612.68, and total income was $22,280.95. So we got the $3,000 is the deficit. So I'd like to open it up for questions if anybody has any.
Yes, Councilmember Gama.
Can you go back to that last slide?
Oop, I lost it.
What was your question?
You showed expenses of 55,000, income of 22, so that I think is a net loss of 33,000.
Well,
Mhm.
that's how much how much it costs.
It was expressed as a positive number though in your last slide.
It was positive in the way that the budget for the event was $65,000, and we didn't use that because of the monies that came in.
But the expenses exceeded the income, and so the deficit is, shouldn't that 33,000 be bracketed as a deficit?
It is a deficit, sorry.
It's not. Oh, okay. But normally that you would put a bracket around, that's how I'm used to seeing it, so.
We can
okay.
update that.
Any other questions? No? All right.
I do want to thank our volunteer groups, Ventura Downtown Lions Club, Bomb Life, and then there was a handful of community members that did volunteer, and some of you who really helped make this event possible in such a short time. So I think we got a lot of great feedback on the event from the vendors, from the community members. So I think it was an overall success.
Any more comments, questions? Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. Glad to hear that we didn't spend all of our budget. That's always nice. And so, and that's the question that I have. So the 33,000, that number is really the 65,000, and we only spent 33,000
Right.
of that. Okay, just to make sure I'm clear. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay. Well, Maya, I just want to say thank you for the presentation and thank you for taking on this task. I was happy with the event. Really nice event. It was a beautiful day, and I'm thankful that we were able to do this for our community, especially the parade. Really wonderful.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you, Maya. This was quite an undertaking and a lot of stuff happening all at once, and you are an army of one and having to handle it all, and you did a great job. And the community was happy, so that's what matters most, is that everybody from the outside saw a fantastic, wonderful day and enjoyed it, and that's the whole point of creating these events. So thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to manage it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We will now move on to the consent calendar. We will consider items on the consent calendar which will be enacted in one motion unless a council member has a request to remove an item for discussion. May I have a motion and a second to approve our consent calendar?
Move to approve?
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can we please take vote?
I'm gonna do this one as a roll call just to confirm that Councilmember Hernandez is no longer in attendance. Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Perez,
Yes.
Councilmember McQueen Lejeune,
Yes.
Councilmember Gama,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez is absent, and Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, so we do not have any public hearings tonight. However, we do have one business item, item number 6, Wainimi Beach Festival 2023 budget. Will staff please present the report? Interim City Manager and Community Development Director Tony Stewart and Economic Development Consultant Steve Kenny.
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. And I'm going to let Steve Kinney take over for the presentation here this evening.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm Steve Kinney, representing REACH, and I'm here tonight for the continuation of the discussion that we started a month ago when I gave you an overall conceptual presentation about how we wanted to approach the Wainimi Beach Festival this year. It was absent numbers at the time, so now we're getting down to the details tonight, and we have an actual budget to present to you, and there are a couple of key issues that are embedded in that. So I think that's the point of the presentation and the discussion tonight. So hopefully we can come to agreement on a budget that will support this year's festival. So for the members of the public, just to get them oriented, these first few slides are what you saw last time, so I won't spend any time on them, but it has to do with the Beach Festival coming up on August 26th and 27th. The last weekend of August, it runs from 11 to 7 on both days, just as it has in past years. Activities include a lot of live music on 2 different stages, carnival rides, arts and crafts, chalk art, community booths, sand sculpture, food, beer, wine, beverages for the entire family. We're proposing this year for the first time an admission charge as detailed there, $10 for adults, $5 for seniors, veterans, and youth, free for kids under 5, and free parking, which is a change from last year when the admission was free, but the parking cost $10. And at the end of it all, the proceeds from the event are intended to benefit REACH for REACH's own mission of support to community organizations such as these listed here and others, the Senior Holiday Luncheon, Real Guppies, Cops for Tots, the school district, the Navy, ROTC, et cetera. So the key issues for us to discuss tonight, I think, in the budget. I mean, first, let me say that you have the detailed line item budget, and it's available in the agenda packet for the public as well. But number one, it's hard to put that line item up on the screen, and number two, I don't necessarily intend to go through it at that granular level because I think we have some kind of fundamental issues that will drive the whole discussion. And the issues are these. The first, for this first time in the last 3 years, it's projected through this budget that there will be a surplus at the end of the event of approximately $46,000. And those proceeds will go to REACH as a part of its fundraising efforts through the year for operations and for community contributions, as I just described to you. So embedded in this budget are a couple of key assumptions. Number one is the assumption of a $25,000 contribution by the city into the event. This mirrors the amount that the city contributed last year and the year before. The difference this year is that we are projecting that up front and sort of and reading that right into the budget, so there's a known amount going into the event as to the city's contribution. And then the second key assumption in there, it has to do with the admission fee as I described before. So one thing I just wanted to clear up, because there have been some questions about the compensation for the festival manager, who is Maya here tonight, and there's been some confusion because she has several roles with REACH and with these events, and so it may be a little confusing as to how all those parse out. Gosh, I really can't see the numbers very well. I didn't choose my colors very well on that slide. I apologize. But there are 3 different roles that the festival manager holds. For the festival itself, the middle column, the manager is compensated $30,000, and that $30,000 is a festival expense. In other words, that money comes directly out of the revenues raised through the festival itself. In addition to that, she has another role directly with REACH, serving as the staff for the REACH Board of Directors, the executive director of REACH, and REACH itself pays her the amount of $24,000 annually. And then thirdly, there's the city contract with REACH, which Maya is the agent for, and that pertains to events like she just described to you. The 75th event was the first under this contract with the city, in which REACH provides the organizing and oversight for these new events. And 75th was the first. We're talking about a Chumash festival in the fall, maybe a road race in the winter. These are all ideas which will come back to the council, but those have been in discussion. And whatever those events are, this contract, which is $36,000, is for the preparation and oversight of those events. So that last column, the city column of $36,000, that's the only money that goes directly from the city to REACH and consequently from the city to the festival manager. The others are from other sources. So I hope that clears up that a little bit. So moving on to the other kind of two key issues that I've mentioned, the first one being the city contribution of $25,000. We talked last time about some of the history of the festival, and so I was able to dig into city records, which at the time I didn't even know existed, and find the records of the past festivals, which are shown here. So starting in 2001, the first year that there was a record for the festival, that was the amount that the city put in of $27,000. And then you can see the variation over the succeeding years, up as high as 65,000, and then other years less than that. And then you see that the last 2 years plus this year, those are the last three columns there. So all of those are shown at $25,000, which is really the least amount that the city is being asked to put into the event in the entirety of the festival's occurrence. And then the last feature of the chart there, the red line, is just to show you how inflation affects all those numbers. Because starting out in the $27,000 back in 2001, today that would be just about $50,000. So that represents sort of the scale of what the city's commitment to this event has been over the past years. And then for the other issue about charging an admission fee, I wanted to show you this because I think I described to you last time sort of the market survey that we did of several events around the county and elsewhere to try and gauge what a fair and common fee is for or charge for admission to these events. And so that's what's depicted here on these columns. The first one on the left being our festival, and then it carries on into the Ventura County Fair, Strawberry Festival, the California Poppy Festival in Lancaster, and others on out. So what's proposed for the rates for our festival show that it's in rough terms about half of what's being charged on average elsewhere. This was done intentionally to reflect partly the fact that Port Huenemi's demographics as a whole relative to the county are less in terms of income, and we want to be respectful of what our community can afford, so to speak. And it's a first-time venture into the idea of charging money for the festival at all. So don't want to be terribly bold and test the top of the market, so to speak. So we tried to offer up a fair charge that would still result in revenue to the festival, and still represents, I think, a fair value for people, because our festival is competitive with all the others that you see on the screen there in terms of the value they offer to people who go there. This is not just a little thing that happens to come together, on a weekend on the beach. It represents a very large endeavor with $360,000 worth of expense going into it to provide people with a really quality experience on the beach, the only beach festival in the county of this nature. So it represents, I think, a worthwhile exchange of value for that amount. And again, remember that represents no parking charge, which is a change from last year, in which we have been charging for parking in the past. So just to wrap up my presentation, although I'm sure we'll have plenty of discussion, as I said, we're uniquely positioned, the only city-sponsored festival on the beach in the county, the least expensive by far, responsive to the demographics of our of our own city. The city contribution of $25,000 is the lowest in the 20-year period of the festival's history. Certainly, there's risk to a new approach, but honestly, REACH bears the brunt of the risk if the revenue doesn't meet the goal. Because of the fact that REACH only derives proceeds from the festival if there's a surplus. If the revenue doesn't meet the targets, or otherwise it doesn't go according to budget, then it's the surplus that shrinks first, and that's what is the direct effect upon REACH. Nonetheless, I mean, it seems from our point of view to be a fair approach, because if the event is successful and goes according to plan, both operationally and financially, then REACH will reap the benefit of it in terms of fundraising for our own efforts for the year. So it's a sort of a risk-reward setup for REACH, and one that we're comfortable proposing to the city. And then last, depending on what happens, I mean, no matter what happens, we can certainly learn lessons from what happens this year to guide us into future years. So I'll leave it with you at that. I know there's plenty to talk about and ask about, so I will turn it over to you.
All right, we're gonna move on to questions. We'll start with Councilmember Martha McQueen.
I have a number of questions. First of all, what if it doesn't, what if it's not successful? And you say REACH is bearing all the risk, and I've been hearing that REACH has nothing to do with the city, that it's an independent entity, yet the city is sending over $3,000 per month to REACH to pay the executive director. So that I don't understand. I think REACH is very much connected to the city. Secondly, how does REACH generate revenue? I know the BRIC campaign was one
Right.
such successful fundraising event, but I don't know of any other fundraising event that REACH has taken part of. And
Well, how about we let him answer one question at a time?
Okay.
So,
Okay, sure.
can you repeat the first question?
Yeah, the first one.
what if you're not successful?
Well, the question is, what if we're not successful? I mean, this is a REACH city event. I mean, it's a partnership
But you
event.
made a projection that you're going to be successful and you're going to earn a profit, but what if you're not?
Right. If we're not, if the surplus doesn't materialize, then first of all, REACH doesn't get anything out of the event.
I could understand that. What?
If the surplus doesn't materialize, so right now the budget shows $46,000 in surplus. So let's say that the surplus is zero. If that's the case, then REACH walks away with nothing. Now, if it were to go even lower than that, if that surplus of zero actually wound up being a deficit of $10,000 or $20,000, just to pick numbers, that would fall on the city.
And that's what I'm having a hard time understanding, because again, I hear that, oh, REACH has nothing to do with the city. It's its own nonprofit and own governing board. So
True.
clearly it is connected to the city. And if we do lose money, then the city has to cover that.
Correct. That's correct. And I mean, REACH is an independent organization, but in this instance, in this event, we are intending to be a partnership, REACH and the city jointly putting on the festival.
Then my
So
second.
the city is the financial resource, REACH provides the management and the operational setup for the event.
Right, but if I'm correct, I think the REACH website says that the REACH generates its own funding through something to that effect, so I don't think that's quite accurate. In terms of comparing our beach festival to the Ventura County Fair, I feel like it's not, it's like comparing oranges to grapes. I mean, the Ventura County Fair is a 14-day event that has high-end acts every night. It has multiple other acts. It has so much more than what we're offering. I don't think it's a fair comparison. And then I had a question the other day because we never really were given, but our interim city manager told us that Maya's salary is $7,500 a month, which is partially paid by, I think that's what you alluded to earlier, like the city pays 36,000 of that per year.
Yes.
And then
Sorry, I can't
the
get back to it.
festival pays a big portion of that, and then REACH pays another portion of it. But again, where does REACH's revenue come from? That's what I'm still not quite understanding. I don't know of any other fundraising other than the BRIC campaign that REACH has participated in.
Right. The BRIC campaign is the most public one. Otherwise, it's just direct solicitation to individuals and businesses, and it's mostly businesses.
How much revenue have we generated in 2023?
Roughly
I'm asking
30,
about revenue.
35,000 so far this year.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the next question. What was your next question? Gama?
I'm
Councilmember
I'm
Gama?
okay for now.
Question about where do you get that figure from, the surplus, as to how many people are you proposing will be in attendance?
Okay, the attendance last year was 20,000, round numbers, okay? So we took a 10% cut from that, just to assume that not as many people are gonna come if they have to pay, it's as if it were free. So we dropped that attendance to 18,000. And then applied the charges, the $10 per adult, $5 for seniors and kids, and all that to those sort of a typical family of four scenario, and that came up with, that calculated up to $112,000, I think. And then that number, then we just cut 25% out of that just to be conservative. Hope that that would be realistic for what the market will bear. And that led to what results in the surplus that you see.
So I don't have an issue with charging something, but I would maybe propose starting a little lower for a first time out, because there's going to be a lot of shell shock people, and because of our demographics, might be easier maybe the first time, but I would have thought to see maybe $5 for adults and $2.50 for children and $6 under free would be maybe a safer starting point. That was just my recommendation,
Okay.
on the
I think
safe side,
if-
because it would still generate some income for you.
Well, it wouldn't actually. I mean, it sounds like you're talking about just cutting in half the rates that were proposed. So I assume that would result in about half of what the end result would be. That end result, as we had calculated or proposed was $84,000. And of that 84,000, some of it goes into the actual expense budget for the festival, and the remainder is 46,000. So if that first 84,000 is cut in half, then what's left is just enough to cover the expenses that were embedded in the festival itself, and the surplus would basically be zero.
If you don't mind, if you don't mind, pretty quickly. So I just took the 90,000 when you looked at on this back page down here, when it said 90,000 at $10 each for the adults, right? So I said if it was $5 each, it would be 45,000.
Right.
If your bottom line to your revenue is 46,000, if we cut that $10 to $5, then your revenue, that would wipe the revenue out altogether.
Wipe
And
out
so if we
the
change the
sur-
$5 for the,
surplus. Yeah.
yeah, if we change the $5 to 250, then now you're in a deficit. And so that's how that would work out. And that's under the assumption that the council approves the 25,000 from the city, right?
Sure.
That would be even further 25,000 deficit
Sure.
added.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm the first to admit to you that these are best guesses.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know what will occur, but we're just trying to make reasonable estimates of what is likely to come about with the festival. And that's why I said in my last slide that there are certain to be lessons learned out of this festival this year, no matter what.
Well, I understand the whole purpose of a nonprofit is to put on events, to raise revenue, to put on other events and so forth and other programs out there. That is, and a nonprofit's sole income is events, fundraisers, sponsorships. So I understand the need and how it would play out, but I would hate to see it crash and not make anything and then it be in a deficit. That's the only risk. That's the big risk that we're taking here, unfortunately. And we don't know how it's going to end up.
You're absolutely right.
A couple of more things. And so there are a couple of line items in here for music, right? So that are added in the budget this year. There's a line item for 20,000. There's another line item for 5,000, I believe.
Right.
And I understand that you are still going to try to find someone to probably sponsor that.
Yes.
So that would be another decrease of 25,000 on the cost. Is that correct?
That is
Okay,
true.
so there are some areas still, I think, that we have to work with and possibly result to a decrease in the fees. I'm not really sure. But I do know there's still a lot of stuff here in the budget that Reach has to play with to come to some real.
But you're right,
close.
Councilmember, and I'm glad you mentioned that because those two things specifically, the cost of the music and the cost of the, I can't remember, but it's related to it, and it was the $5,000. Oh, the stage, the community stage. That's right. Those were sponsored last year, and we still have hope of having them sponsored again this year. It's just those were not nailed down at the time of making the budget, so I had to sort of assume the worst case. So I'm hopeful to come back to you later with good news that we've got sponsorships, but that's where it sits tonight.
David Moss called me and said that they're not going to do the sponsorship this year. And I don't know what conversations you may have had or hadn't had or whatever, but he wanted to let me know that they were pulling out of it for some reason. But I brought my 2005 T-shirt, Wainemata Beach Festival, and I brought it because, you know, back then they did it in-house, all in-house by Parks and Recreation. I think they did a good job, and they, you know, they didn't have the sponsorship opportunities that existed when we brought it back in 2021. So yes, I didn't see 2005 in your slide, but I do know that at one point they charged $5 entry and the attendance tanked. So I'm just very leery of this whole, I don't know, I just feel like before we even have a beach festival agreed upon, we're already starting the city is starting $36,000 in the hole because we're paying that money.
No, Councilman, that's not exactly right. The $36,000 doesn't have anything to do with the festival. The $36,000 is from that slide, it's in a separate column, if you will, but that has to do solely with the other special events that the city is or wishes to put on.
But
The 75th is the first. There are others planned, but that $36,000 pertains only to those events, not the beach festival at all.
Right, but there's a salary of $90,000, which is $7,500 per month. And according to interim city manager, the city is paying $3,000 a month on that.
Yes, for
can
the
we see
4
the-
events that we agreed to per the contract that we approved last year.
Correct.
Can we see the slide of the 3 columns, just
I'd
to
love
maybe
to.
clarify it?
I'd love to. Yeah. There we go. So what the $36,000, that's what I was referring to, and your comment as well pertains. That's the column to my right, the right side of the slide, and that's the $36,000.
And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that the city is in for $36,000 before
For,
we approve this budget or not, and we're not gonna
Yep.
get that money back.
But those are for different events.
Right.
Now, is that 30,000 for the beach festival? Just the beach festival?
just the beach
Does
festival.
that include the 25,000 that we're including?
Which 25, you mean the city
So
contribution?
the sponsorship for City of Port Hueneme, there's 25,000, so it's 25,000 plus 30,000?
Well, no, the 25,000 is one source of revenue, which along with all the others goes into the total pot of revenue. And out of that total revenue comes $30,000 for the festival manager, another 32,000 for the sponsorship commissions, all the other expenses come out of that. But it's not a one-to-one correlation between those two.
Do you understand?
The city pays in 25,000 for the beach festival. The total income as a whole that comes out of the beach festival is where the 30,000 comes out of. Not the 25 just goes in for the city's contribution to the beach festival.
So out of the profit
The
that's
total profits at
expected
the end of the night.
is 36, but out of those 36, 30 will go into the manager? Is that? I just want to know, okay, what is that 30,000 right there?
That's a percentage of what the festival director gets. As part of the salary, the 90,000 as total, it's broken up into 3 ways. The city pays a portion, 36, and that is to compensate the 4 events that we agreed to per the contract last year. The 30, part of that 90,000 is this 30,000, which is for the festival only. And then separate from that, for her duties as director to REACH and all the different things she does specifically for REACH, separate from all these other 2, is 24,000, which totals the 90,000.
Okay. Can I have Tony Stewart confirm that? City manager?
Yes, that is correct, where we've got, as we see there, the 3 piles of money, basically. So you've got the 24,000, which is just her REACH salary for working for REACH. The 30,000 is from the beach festival. As you see, it's actually down at $10,000 this year from last year. It was 40,000 last year. And then completely separate from that is the city contribution that we agreed to for the other 4 events that Mayor Pro Tem Perez just mentioned. So our 75th anniversary and whatnot, but it does not pertain to the beach festival at this point.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if it helps, but it's really a misnomer to say a $90,000 salary, because salary implies full-time employment and all that.
Then that's what our city manager reported to us, that, and I can show you the email.
I think that's irrelevant to this subject, though.
Yeah.
Her salary is not the discussion.
Yeah, and the fact that, I was just going to make the point, it's not a salary. She has actually 3 separate contractual obligations as represented by those 3 columns up there, and each one of those is independent of the others. So for tonight's discussion, we're just focused on the middle column, or the $30,000 that she would make for managing the festival.
But does that come from the city?
No,
Okay, then let's go to the column to the right. It says city event coordinator, $36,000. So if there's 3 events, then I could assume it's $12,000. But regardless, whether it's, and to my knowledge, there's been 2 events, but regardless, There's a $90,000 salary that's broken down into 3 parts. And the city going into this event is at least in the whole $12,000, because we're not going to get it back. We're right?
Right.
We're not, so if it's 12,000 for the beach festival, then we're not getting that back. We're
It's not 12,000 for the beach festival. Sorry to contradict you, but the
okay, but
12
you have a slide there that says city
Yes.
event coordinator, 36,000.
Correct.
In my mind, there will be 3 events this year.
It's 4 events, right?
The plan is for 4 events in a calendar year, yes.
Yeah.
To be approved and discussed and decided by council.
Correct, right.
Yeah,
And
so
that's in
you
addition
know,
to the
just-
beach
I
festival.
think maybe what I guess, yeah, it's a little confusing, but I don't,
I'm just going to reiterate my point. 2005, I believe Parks and Recs managed it. And yeah, they may have lost more money, but it looks like we're spending more money to potentially lose more money. I don't get it.
Parks and Recs is busy at this time. They will not be able to handle putting together a beach festival, unfortunately, this year. So,
well, it was confusing for me because I thought maybe we were paying the 30,000 up front, but I realized that that's not the case. Okay, so all it is that we're providing right now is the $25,000 for sponsorship of the beach festival, correct? I did have a question in terms of, our marketing plan. What are we gonna do to ensure that we get people to show up to the festival? Because I think that's probably one of the concerns that the council has, because if we don't get enough people to show up to the event, then you were saying that we're obligated to provide that money. So let's just say worst case scenario, there's $80,000 deficit. Then you're saying that the city then has to pay that, because the way I see it is, it's not just the ticket sales, is we need to get people inside the festival to pay for the rides, to pay for the food,
Yeah.
and everything else. So if we don't get enough ticket sales, then all those other numbers also drop. So
Correct.
not only would that admission charges drop in terms of income, but then also the food and everything else. So do you know what would be the least amount of people that we would need to have at the festival so that we at least, so it breaks even? I know it'd be really difficult to calculate because there's so many variables, but do you have an idea?
I don't.
And then
don't.
in
I
terms
could
of the marketing
some time
plan,
with it.
are we gonna do something different this year so that we do ensure that we bring in people, the people that wanna come to the festival and are okay with paying the entrance fee? Because I know you and I spoke over the weekend, and one of the things that I mentioned was I went around talking to people, and a lot of people weren't okay with having to pay to go into the festival. And maybe that's our bad because we haven't charged. I think we should be charging, but at the same time, it was a concern for me because I had a lot of people, basically everybody's not so happy with having to pay. So the marketing plan.
Right. Well, in terms of marketing, I mean, we now have two seasons of material to use in creating a marketing plan. I mean, just showing the results of what's happened over the last 2 years is content for what can be marketed. I mean, the marketing firm that's overseeing it all, I'm glad you're here, it is very proficient in social media, plus the other outlets they use, which are oriented toward the region, not just Port Hueneme. But Maya, please step in.
So we will be meeting with the marketing firm on strategy if it gets approved to pay. But one of the other things was the lineup of music wasn't selected good for for the festival. So we're working on contracts with the bands that we'll be having for them to advertise as well. It'll be part of their contract. So that's a big thing, is bringing in bands that people want to come in and see and that have followings. So we already have a pretty good lineup ready for that. And these are bands that draw people in, and it will help us with marketing.
Okay. Oh. Yeah, do you, any of the names of the bands?
So the Led Zeppelins, we have Smooth, Santana cover band, Twisted Gypsy, and we have Jenny Rivera cover band that's really popular. I think that last year we were missing those 2 Hispanic bands that we did ask for and we didn't get, so that will draw a lot of people in. And then we have a Bruno Mars cover band, and I think there's one more that I'm forgetting. And that's on the main stage.
So all those bands have been here within the last year and a half at Ocean View Pavilion. And one of the things I thought that was really nice about the last 2 years was Ozo Motley came, which is a big band. A lot of people were surprised that we had that quality of entertainment. Digging Dirt, I forget the guy's name, Law, but there were some good bands. So, and we just had Gypsy here and that, in my mind, going back to the original beach festivals, they recycled the same entertainment year after year, and I think that's what kind of, I mean, you need to have new and fresh entertainment. So every band you mentioned, as I saw at the Ocean View Pavilion within the last year and a half or 2. So it just concerns me a little bit on that front.
Councilmember Martha McQueen, do you have any questions?
I don't think I have any questions right now.
Okay. All right, so thank you so much for the presentation. We're gonna move on to public comments regarding this item. Now, public comments.
We have a public comment from Rich Rollins.
Thank you.
I haven't been on this side for a while, but good evening, City Council. I am concerned regarding the potential proposal to charge a substantial admission to the Hueneme Beach Festival. Since its inception, it has been free to attendees. It was the city's way to celebrate with the local residents and to attract tourists to this kind of out-of-the-way community that they might not normally go to. It was an affordable way for young families, many of limited income, to bring their kids to go on rides, to build sandcastles, to listen to local bands, and to eat carnival food. When I first moved here, just a bit of clarification, the city Park and Recreation Director did oversee it, but they contracted out a group for $50,000 to actually run the event. So while it was overseen by the Park and Recreation Director, they actually did hire somebody for $50,000 to run the event. Let me make sure I have this right. With the sponsorships of cannabis, this event, still free, only cost the city $20,000 last year. So I wasn't privy to all those charts, but when you look at it, at one point we were paying as much as $60,000. The last few years we've only spent $20,000. The goal has never been to compete with the Strawberry Festival, the county fair, which have steadily increased their fees to the point that it's no longer affordable to many families. The council really needs to define what the goal of this festival is. Is this a festival to raise money? Is it something that we use some of the revenue that we get from other things to give back to the community? It's a question that you as a council have to decide what your goals truly are. Is it to provide a commercialized event that may make money at the expense of reducing attendance, or to provide a low-cost opportunity for families to recreate? If you look at all the different expenses from last year, if there's a way to reduce those expenses and still provide a quality event, maybe that's a goal that we should look at. There's a lot of local cities that provide free annual festivals to their residents. Camarillo, Thousand Oaks, Culver City, Santa Monica, Alhambra, and many others provide free events where they go to the events, they spend their money that they can afford for the various different things, but they get to be part of a festival. A family of four will pay $20 from what I just saw, plus rides. It can be it may not be an expensive for like a lot of upper middle income families, but for a lot of the families that we have here, that could be quite a hit, and they may just choose not to go. More fees mean less attendance, and I don't necessarily see it as a moneymaker. And I'm a member of REACH. It's never made money. I'm not sure if that's what our goal is. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Rich.
Luis Mendez.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Hello, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Couple of things, I'm speaking as a resident of Port Hueneme. I don't think there should be a charge for the festival, especially when you have a festival we just had for the 75th anniversary that was free, and you're gonna have one that's similar but now charged. As far as what I see, this is a beach community. It is a beach festival, but that's the location. It's not really the theme of the event. And I think that's what it's lacking and why it's probably not producing revenue. Oxnard has a free salsa festival, free tamale festival. So maybe council and REACH can think outside the box and add a theme to the event that will draw more people, whether it's a fish fry, a barbecue cook-off. You know, you want people like food, people like drinks, they'll come to see that. So I think you're lacking the draw of people outside of our community. Looking at the budget, last October I was here when they went over the summary of the event. There was less attendance than the year before, and it lost money. The city council had to pay some money into it. So now they're looking at charging for ticket sales there's gonna be a definite loss when you're charging. So you had 1 year, no charge, dropped attendance from the previous year. Now you want to add a $10 charge. I think the attendance is going to drop even more without providing sufficient entertainment or other things outside than just music and saying that the location is at a beach. Okay, so like I said, we do have a beach, but that is a location, not a theme that's going to draw people in. With that, I didn't hear anything from the presentation about any cuts that were being made. I mean, some of the biggest things I saw, or one of the largest, was the capital investments is what I'm suggesting. Tables, chairs, canopies, $42,000 is what was spent on last year. If you're doing 4 events a year and spending that money, why doesn't REACH or the city make a capital investment and purchase them and then use those same ones every year? That would definitely cut costs after the next event going forward. And you could get some storage and rent them out to other people that want to hold events in the city. So it's reducing the cost for future events by buying them yourselves and not having the repeat $42,000 expense. So that's just my idea of one way to cut costs. I've been a member of other nonprofit organizations. One thing that I did see was a bigger expense. The commission to the person managing it didn't bother me as much as the commissions for the sponsorships. You know, I've done a lot of volunteer work for nonprofits, and we get volunteer or sponsors, and people donate money. I don't get paid to solicit a sponsor that's going to get advertisement and stuff like that for being at the event and drawing other people there. So I think that may need to be addressed a little bit more, maybe reduce the commission split. And for the food, rather than charge a flat fee for the vendors, maybe lower the entrance fee and maybe do a profit share on their profits at the event. So maybe you might get more vendors, whether it's craft food, things like that. So I just think the way the festival is looked at needs to be rethought. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. That's all I have.
Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
So the recommendation is to approve the budget estimate for the 2023 Hueneme Beach Festival, which includes anticipated revenue and admission fees, and appropriate $25,000 as the city financial support for the event from the account number. I'd like to ask the city attorney if the festival doesn't make money, and then does that mean that we're obligated to pay Reach for the deficit?
I would need to review the contract that council authorized several months ago with Reach to determine what the contractual obligations would be.
Okay, would it be considered a gift of public funds?
That's unlikely. It's contracting for a service that the city would otherwise provide and pay out of pocket.
Okay. So, yeah, let's make let's make some motions, okay? And
Can I
so you
do a
guys-
point of order here, please? If a council member is going to make a comment, can you please speak into the mic so we all can hear what you're saying?
Okay, so we can make several motions, so it's up for anybody to make a motion.
I move that we hold off on approving the entire budget, but approve the 25,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, and if we approve the budget and, excuse me, if we hold off on approving the budget, but approve the 25,000, I guess, what does that mean in terms of reach?
I'm going to ask that Reach go back, look at the budget, try to fill in some of those areas for the music, if there's a sponsor, and then come back. I'm not sure how much time is needed before we need to approve a budget, but I think there's still some areas of the budget that is here that we need to work on. And I think until we get that, I don't believe that we're going to be able to look at fees. Should we charge fees and how much should those fees be?
Okay. We have a first and a second. Is there any other motions? Councilmember Gama?
I just move that we table this and bring it back in 2 weeks. We just heard some great ideas that perhaps could be incorporated into a future, another budget, and maybe, a theme. Like, I think that's a very relevant point. Yeah, we have a beach, but it's not a theme. We've talked about before of having a lifeguard competition. We talked about before having a surf competition. We talked about before doing other beach volleyball competitions, and I don't see any of that in this. And so I would just make a motion that come back in 2 weeks and give us a whole different look with some of the ideas and concepts that you heard tonight.
Okay, let's have a discussion. This is something that we haven't had. So you commented. Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
I just would like to go back to the 25,000 because I think that is part of the budget they're going to come back with. And so I think it's important that they have a decision on that. So when they come back, we're not talking about that again. And they could actually try to figure the budget with that amount in there.
Okay. Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Perez?
No, I was agreeable to Ms. McQueen-Lejean's motion, so I'll stick by that.
Okay, just so you know, the one thing that I'm still not okay with is, let's just say there is a deficit, that it falls on the council. And so I just wanted to ask, is the council okay with that?
No, that's why I recommend going over the budget and determining where, if any cost cuts that can be made, any new sponsorship, or I'd like more information about what does it mean for the sponsorship commission? Like why is that necessary? Just more discussion about the budget and ways we can reduce the deficit, the cost.
Okay, well, I think we could have asked those questions today. Is it okay if I bring Mr. Kenny back up? Yes. How would this affect the festival if we only approve the $25,000 today?
I think from Reach's perspective on this, I think we really need to know if the city council considers valid the idea that there's intended to be a surplus out of the event as a fundraiser for Reach. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way, but that's the way this whole thing started 2-3 years ago. And that's the way that we've been approaching this right up until now. For Reach to participate in the event, it's for the purpose of making money. Reach is not an event management organization. We're intended to find funds to then support other community organizations. So if there's no benefit to our fundraising ability through this event, then why are we in the game at all? And that's not to say, I mean, I'm not trying to be petulant about it and say, you know, we're going to take our ball and go home or something, but so you understand for Reach's perspective, we need to know if you consider that a valid goal of the budget, because that will drive, you know, a lot of the details after that.
So yes, I absolutely support Reach being able to fundraise and make money. I think that's a necessary component of a nonprofit. I'm just concerned that with the fee the way it is, it may not result in that anyway, and there's going to be money owed that nobody wants to have. So I'm just trying to come up with smarter ways of being able to effectuate this and for Reach to make some money, maybe play around with some numbers, with some different fee scenarios and reducing some of the overhead costs so that there is a possible way for us to have a beach festival and Reach can make some money.
I'm happy to pursue that with you.
And if I could make a comment, though, the problem that I have is that we're being asked to, and I'll use the word gift, even though it's probably inappropriate, but we're going to gift $25,000 with the hope that Reach turns a profit. And regardless of Reach turning a profit or not, the city's out $25,000.
Well, the city is
Right?
contributing financially to its own event.
Is that a
Yes.
correct assessment?
The city would be spending $25,000 irrespective of the.
So it is a
end
correct
result.
assessment that the city is going to lose $25,000 in hopes that Reach is going to turn a dollar profit.
I mean, I could parse words with you on that,
I don't
Councilman.
want to
but
parse words. I'm just, it's pretty factually correct. I mean,
I just wonder if the council considers putting money into the event as a loss, or is it an investment in an event that you want to have happen in the community?
I do have a question. So, Mayor Pro Tem had asked if you could explain the sponsorship commissions.
Sure.
The 32,000.
Right. That's based upon a blended rate of 20% commission for non-cannabis sponsors that are contracted for the event, and 10% for cannabis sponsors. And that's with a gentleman who does the same thing for Strawberry Festival and the fair, and that's just consistent
Oh, that's
with
to get the
those rates.
sponsorships, right?
Right, yeah. His responsibility for that fee is, number one, to sign up the sponsors in the first place, and then to tend to their requirements and to make sure that the event delivers to them what's been promised in their benefits, and sort of hand-holding through the event and all that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kenny.
You're welcome.
All right. Madam Clerk, can we please take a vote since there was only one motion on the table?
Okay, Councilmember McQueen Lejeune,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Perez,
Yes.
Councilmember Gama,
no.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1. Councilmember Gama's voting no.
All right, we're gonna move on to city manager comments and reports.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Not much to report this week. Public Works noted that, as you may have known, on Friday night, we had an issue over on Channel Islands at Via Civil's complex, where somebody had a medical issue and sheared a fire hydrant and actually took out a staircase at the complex. And so we got the hydrant and the broken pipe fixed. Just took a little longer than we thought because it was more intense than we thought it would be. And Building and Safety is currently working with the Via Civil to get the staircase repaired. And then just Gabby reports that this morning they had a 3-hour walk of Bubbling Springs Park. And it was a good meeting, basically. It was to physically see and vet out what the improvements for our grant are going to look like out on the field. So that's all I have to report for you.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on to requests for future agenda items. I'd like to remind council members that all requested items require a motion, a second, and a majority vote per adopted council policies. Does anybody have a request for future agenda items?
I have my notes, but I forgot them. But one of the things that I'd like
Sorry,
to,
Councilman, is your mic on?
yes, it's too far away, I think. We brought up the fact that we wanted to see some information on the cannabis, the 1%, is it 1%, to nonprofits? And we've never seen that. And so I'd like to, remind the staff that we were looking for that. And I don't know if it needs to be on the agenda, but
I'll make a second for that, just so that it's on record.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
All right, so okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, some time ago, I asked for a staff report on a potential dangerous condition in the neighborhood over from me where there is no street light and it's completely dark on the roadway. And I know that it was being worked on. I just never saw anything come back from Public Works. It's the Crossjack area where Marlboro Seaside Village is. Just wanted to find out if there's anything to report on that. I know it was worked on at one point in time. I just don't know where it went.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Just have one quick comment. We previously requested a report on all the items that have been approved for a future agenda, which haven't come up on an agenda yet. And that's why I'm reframing from making any future requests, because there's a backlog of items that we approved that haven't come before this council yet. And so I think we really need to, if we end up having a late meeting, so be it. But there's a number of items that we have already requested to be on the agenda that haven't come on the agenda.
Mr. City Attorney, does any of those agenda items before the change of the guard, so to speak, do those still count, or do those have to be re-voted on?
There's no reason why they wouldn't count. I'm sure that they're still all being tracked, is my recollection, but that's more a question for the city manager.
I would agree. And there are a couple things that we're working on. And I mentioned this to the mayor actually recently, that this is something, we call it the action tracker internally, but this is something that we could report out on maybe quarterly, just to keep you all updated on the progress of this. We were talking about a couple of other things such as cannabis revenues and whatnot that we'll also be talking about bringing back to you on a fairly regular basis, just so that you're informed.
Okay. I'll still give a second to Councilmember Gama's, just so that it's on record. So I'll give a second to his request.
Can you just rephrase his motion then? Sorry.
To get an agenda item on the agenda items that are outstanding to be put on the agenda
Got
that
it.
we've already voted on.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
All right. I know this meeting lasted a little bit longer than anticipated, but we made it all the way to the end safe. So that's what's most important. So I'd like to adjourn the meeting. The time is now 8:09 p.m. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 1st, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you.